Hi, this is Matt at Engadget, and we're taking a look at Nokia's Lumia 620, its new entry-level Windows Phone 8 device. And it's a bit of a looker really, as cheap entry-level smartphones go. We're kind of very impressed in how it looks. Now we've got the cyan shell here, and we'll take a tour of a few of the other cases that you can get with it a bit later. But let's just spin it around so you can take a quick look at how it all looks. This is obviously a matte finish cover, but there's also glossy ones if you prefer. In the hand, it actually feels an awful lot like the iPhone 3G and 3GS. The front is actually completely straight, but then there's curvature around to the back. It's obviously a little bit squarer than the old iPhone. If you look at the back here, you can see the 5 megapixel sensor with LED flash and the loudspeaker. Now, the loudspeaker is truly loud. It'll go up to about 100 decibels, and that's actually louder than even the Lumia 920, so that's kind of a nice addition. If we spin around, there's nothing here on the edge, but on the top you'll get the headphone socket and the secondary mic. Both mics are actually high amplitude, and you can check that out in our sample video on the review. It's very good at picking up the noises you want to hear, although we found wind noises still get through. There's no wind breaking facility there. On the other side, you've got the familiar button layout, the volume rocker here on a shiny black finish, the power on, power off button, and the 2-stage camera button. Again, if you hard press that, it should launch right into the camera mode. It's worth noting even now that phone launches a lot quicker into that camera setting than on the preceding devices like the Lumia 610 or other cheaper devices. The processor is actually a dual-core Snapdragon S4 Plus clocked at 1 GHz, and we've been delighted at how it really hums. It does a really good job. The behaviour of the handset is largely identical to those pricier Nokia phones like the 920 or the 820, even though they have technically more capable processors. There's only 512 megabytes of RAM compared to a gig on the pricier models, but on day-to-day use it's very hard to fault it. If we open up the Internet Explorer browser, obviously this is just a mobile site here on BBC, but if we type into Engadget, again, the keyboard is actually smaller than on other Lumia phones, so that's something to note if you're thinking about deciding between this and the other Nokia devices. This is on a Wi-Fi connection, but it really does speed around. Scrolling is very quick. There's little to no skipping. If we just focus in on a picture, again, it's a very, very good performing little phone. And better still that the price is only £150 here in the UK, and that's contract free. So you're getting a very strong performing smartphone for, to be honest, a small amount of money compared to other phones. Let alone how attractive it looks. Let's just get a few of the other covers out so you can see how they look. Now, it wouldn't be a Nokia phone without a whole multitude of colour effects. We've got a few of the shells here. First up is the matte white finish, the kind of more plainer option. There's also a black option, but it's a matte finish, and due to the way these cases are formed out of 2 layers, if we take a close-up here, you might be able to see there's actually a slight silhouette behind the Nokia branding, because the front surface of the cover is actually backed up by another white one. That's why the covers actually are a lot brighter than you think they might be. The yellow one's a good way of explaining that. Again, this is another matte finish, but on the back we've got white, and that's then layered with yellow, so it just kind of cranks up the brightness a little bit more. Conversely, if you have a yellow backing and then the layer on top here is actually blue, kind of difficult to see here, but pair them together and you get this very vivid glossy lime green finish, and this is another one of our personal favourites. We haven't got the orange one, unfortunately. We do have this very vivid magenta one. Again, this is a red coating on a white backing. Another thing that's interesting to note here is how the headphone socket is actually integrated into each cover rather than the phone, and given that this unit is actually often breakable, especially when you're dealing with cases on and off, it's quite a clever idea for them to design it into the cases rather than into the Lumia 620. Now, despite that lesser processor, Nokia still managed to port over all of its baked-in Windows Phone 8 apps, which is a good thing given that Windows Phone 8 still lags on a lot of the important ones. I mean, this is a common complaint you'll find in a lot of our reviews about Windows Phone 8. Even at this point, we're in the middle of February now, there's still no Instagram, which is a tricky one admittedly, no Dropbox, and oddly no Spotify, even though you can get Spotify on Windows Phone 7. It's a bit of a mystery really. And again, the Nokia-based apps work perfectly well, despite the lesser processor, despite the smaller amount of RAM. You can have no issues running the apps, at least, that we've tried. Angry Birds as well runs perfectly smoothly on it. Other apps that you can use if you're worried about hardware concerns, Skype is already installed and works, again, just as well as you'd hoped. And again, SkyDrive and other MS apps are all available, and we were quick to install them as soon as possible. So the Lumia 620 is a really pleasant surprise of a smartphone, especially as an entry-level model. Despite slight drawbacks, smaller screen, lower resolution, lesser processor, it behaves just as well and is just as capable as pricier Windows phones, even from Nokia's own family. The hardware is also pretty attractive, and we've already switched to a different colour case during this review. But it's a good-looking phone. And it kind of differentiates itself from the kind of humdrum entry-level Android designs you'll see around. A better comparable phone could be possibly the One SV or even the One V before that pair a nice and slightly attractive hardware with a capable processor and enough to get by, enough to do the things you want to do with a smartphone, like web browsing, social networks, emailing, and things like that. The phone is available now in the UK, priced at £150 on pay-as-you-go with O2. Although there's no word yet on a release in the US, you should be able to import it from your favourite tech import stores. Anyway, you should check out the full review at engadget.com. Thanks for watching. This has been Matt.